What if the imperfections in movies weren't flaws, but features? Little accidents, tiny mistakes, the limitations of analog filmmaking. Things modern productions would fix instantly, yet somehow they are part of why older films feel so real and unforgettable. As cinema gets smoother, cleaner, and more digital than ever, I sometimes wonder if we quietly lost something along the way. Let's start with something simple, the dolly shot. Before motorized rigs and computer-controlled sliders, a dolly was basically a miniature train, real wheels, real tracks, and real human muscle pushing a heavy camera forward. And if one of those wheels wasn't perfectly smooth, or if a track had even the tiniest bump, or if dirt got lodged in somewhere, the entire camera shook for a moment. Technically, this ruined the shot, but in a strange way, it made it better. Because that shake tells you the camera is physically there, moving through the same space as the actors. It's not floating on an invisible digital path. It's not a green screen illusion. It's for real. For grounded or gritty films, that little vibration pulls you in deeper. It reminds you that what you're seeing happened at a specific point in time, in a real place, with real people, real weather, real movement. That tactile weight is impossible to fake. A great example of this, taken to the extreme, is Angst from 1983. That film almost never stops moving. The filmmakers built all kinds of custom rigs, body-mounted harnesses, swinging stabilizers, improvised rails, all designed to let the camera stalk the characters like a hungry animal. But despite all that engineering, Angst might be one of the shakiest films ever made. The camera bumps into door frames, it scrapes against walls, it quivers when the operator runs. You feel every jolt. At first it might seem chaotic or sloppy, but that messiness becomes the film's identity. The shake isn't a flow, it's a texture. It creates a kind of hyper-realism, like you're not watching a constructed scene, but witnessing a panicked, uncontrolled moment in someone's life. And this idea extends far beyond camera movement. Analog filmmaking had all kinds of baked-in imperfections, simply because how the tools worked. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre is practically held together by grain, overexposed daylight, and jittery handheld shots, all symptoms of a tiny budget and 60mm film stock pushed way beyond its comfort zone. The result is a documentary-like intensity that feels disturbingly real. The Evil Dead went even further, with Sam Raimi building his own camera rigs out of 2x4s and pure enthusiasm. The shaking, scraping shaky cam wasn't a stylistic invention, it was a limitation, but it became one of the film's most iconic features. You see the same analog fingerprints in Mean Streets, where Scorsese shot in dimly lit New York bars, forcing the film stock to fight for every speck of light. The grain, the blown-out neons, the missed focus pulls, all of that adds to the film's chaotic, street-level realism. Eraserhead, shot over several years on leftover film stock and makeshift lighting setups, is full of these tiny shifts in grain, exposure, and contrast that somehow make the nightmare feel more authentic, like a dream stitched together from scraps. Even in a perfectly locked-off shot, you might get gate weave, that tiny, natural jitter that happens when the film strip shifts inside the camera. Titles and on-screen text were especially sensitive to this. The letters would visibly wiggle or drift because the film couldn't hold them perfectly steady. And you can still see this today on pristine Blu-ray releases of older films. The image is beautifully restored, but the titles still jitter because that motion is physically baked into the film itself. Older lenses brought their own quirks. A simple rack focus would cause the entire frame to breathe or pulse, because the glass elements were physically expanding and contracting inside the lens. Color too was never truly consistent. Two angles in the same scene could have different tints depending on the film stock, the processing, or even the camera body. And optical transitions, like dissolves and fades, would sometimes shift the entire color palette as you enter the transition, literally from one frame to another, because the optical printer was layering two images on top of each other, and that was the limitation of that technology. Special effects also introduced their own analog fingerprints. Matte paintings, blue screen composites, and optical effects often had visible matte lines, faint borders or halos around the actors because the technology could only isolate them so cleanly. And beyond that, the film prints themselves added their own imperfections. Dirt, scratches, little flecks, and those vertical zips flashing across the screen, all of that was normal. Today we would call it damage, but back then it was simply part of going to the movies. And the funny thing? Now we download stock footage to imitate those imperfections. Filmmakers use plugins and effects to add scratches, jitter, dust and flicker because digital cinema is too clean, too sterile. What used to be unavoidable is now a stylistic choice. Even the most careful cinematographers couldn't escape the human element. In long takes, you will often see tiny moments of focus hunting, where the focus puller chases the actors manually and the image pops in and out of sharpness. It's not a mistake, it's the result of a human being trying to keep up with the motion in real time, using a lens with razor-thin depths of field. Today, autofocus and focus peaking make these issues almost non-existent, but that slight unpredictability, that human effort, used to be visible in the final image. And then there were the little on-set accidents, boom mics dipping into the frame, camera shadows on the wall, reflections of the crew in windows or chrome surfaces. Not ideal, of course, but completely normal. These tiny accidents weren't only proof of limitations, they were proof of humanity. A boom mic isn't just a mistake, it's a reminder that somewhere just outside the frame there is a real person holding that pole, trying not to shake while the actor delivers the most emotional line of the film. A camera shadow is the DP leaning in. A stray reflection is the crew living and breathing inside the space, doing their best. All of these imperfections are fingerprints, human signatures, evidence that these films physically happened. And that's what I'm a little afraid of losing. With all the new tools, CGI, stabilization, AI upscaling, automatic color matching, films' risk becomes too perfect, too smooth, too dreamlike. And don't get me wrong, that's fantastic for fantasy, sci-fi, superhero movies, surreal stories. Those genres thrive on perfection. But for films grounded in the real world, sometimes perfection takes something away. Because there is something comforting, something emotionally honest about knowing that somewhere, at a very real point in time and space, a group of people stood together on that location. They set up lights, laid down tracks, held microphones, built props, tried things that didn't work, bumped into stuff, laughed, sweated, and captured a moment that would never happen the same way again. Those little imperfections are proof of life, evidence that filmmaking isn't just a digital craft, but a human one. And a film doesn't have to be perfect to be memorable. In fact, sometimes the mistakes, the limitations, and the tiny errors are exactly what make these films unforgettable. Thanks for watching.